Congress is weighing the most aggressive Medicare rewrite in a generation, tucked deep inside the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. The House version reads like a checklist of ideological wish lists. Tighten eligibility, overhaul how doctors get paid, and slap new rules on drug middlemen. The Senate draft keeps only a fraction of those moves, betting that a slimmer package can squeak through a chamber where Republicans can afford to lose just 3 votes. Start with who would still qualify for Medicare. The House plan limits access to U.S. citizens, lawful permanent residents, certain Cuban nationals, and people covered under compacts of free association treaties. That leaves long-residing immigrants without green cards facing a hard wall at age 65. The Senate leaves that gate in place. So on immigrant coverage, both chambers speak with the same voice. Next comes money. Today, physician payments rise by a small fixed percentage each year. The House rips that formula out and ties raises to the Medicare Economic Index. 75% of MEI growth in 2026. Then a flat 10% a year, far higher than current law. Rural hospitals get another sweetener. Shuttered facilities that closed between 2014 and 2020 would again qualify for Medicare funding if they reopen as emergency hospitals. None of that survives in the Senate text, which drops every single payment expansion as too expensive. Drug costs become a different battleground. The House caps what pharmacy benefit managers can earn in Medicare Part D, forcing them to accept set service fees instead of taking a cut of each drug's price or rebate. Supporters claim that change would finally break hidden incentives to pick high-priced drugs. Critics warn PBMs will just shift costs elsewhere. Either way, the Senate refuses to touch it. Another House provision expands the orphan drug loophole, shielding drugs for rare diseases from Medicare's new price negotiation powers. Patient groups love it. Budget hawks hate it. The Senate simply deletes it. Regulation also shows up in the nursing home staffing fight. The Biden administration wants minimum nurse-to-patient ratios. The House bill blocks that rule entirely, and the Senate quietly lets that block stand. One more House-only item allows seniors who rely solely on Part A to keep contributing to health savings accounts past age 65. A change cheered by high-income retirees, but ignored by the Senate. If all the House provisions survived, the impacts would cascade fast. Coverage limits for non-citizens would kick some elderly immigrants off Medicare entirely, and complicated appeals would clog courts. Physicians would see larger checks. Good news for specialist access, but bad for the deficit. Reopened rural hospitals could plug care deserts, but also drain federal coffers. Delinking PBM pay from drug prices might shave a few dollars off Part D spending, or it might just rearrange middleman margins. Analysts disagree. The biggest sleeper is the PAYGO landmine. The bill's projected $2.3 trillion deficit spike would trigger across-the-board cuts, slicing roughly $500 billion from Medicare between 2026 and 2034, unless Congress scrambles to waive the rules. That knife would swing regardless of how many other reforms pass. The Senate path is still messy. Fiscal hawks like Senators Ron Johnson and Rand Paul argue the bill does not cut deeply enough and wants steeper Medicaid savings. Moderates such as Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski worry about rural hospitals and low-income beneficiaries. 3 defections sink the bill. Then come parliamentary traps. Anything that fails the Byrd Rule's budget tests can be struck at a moment's notice. Even if the text survives intact, courtroom fights loom. Bans on gender-affirming care, tougher work checks, and provider tax limits invite equal protection and federalism lawsuits the minute ink dries. States would also shoulder a brutal workload. New eligibility screens, new payment algorithms, and new audit obligations mean overhauling software, retraining staff, and policing providers. Most state agencies are already buried under pandemic backlogs. Adding federal mandates without extra money all but guarantees delays, errors, and coverage gaps. Monitoring compliance will cost more, not less, and any miss triggers federal clawbacks. Strip away the jargon and the political chess. If you draw a Social Security check, or expect to one day, OBBA decides whether your doctor gets a raise, whether your rural hospital reopens, and whether your prescription plan still works. The House laces Medicare with major giveaways and minefields. The Senate trims the wish list, keeps the immigration clamp down, and bets that less is more when margins are razor-thin. Negotiators now have to stitch those visions into one bill that satisfies deficit hawks, rural champions, and procedural referees, all while clocking in under the Byrd Rule's cost ceiling. Nothing is final until the gavel drops, but the clock is ticking. A new Congressional Budget Office score can flip safe votes to no votes overnight, and lobbyists are already flooding offices with alternative language. If Medicare matters to your health, your hospital, or your retirement math, this is your alert. Read the fine print, call the switchboard, and make noise before these edits hit the Senate floor. Because once they do, the next chance to fix them might be years too late.